Champion Jack Dupree was an American bluesman from New Orleans, known for his piano playing and singing. His musical career spanned from 1931 to 1991. And as often seems to be the case with these American bluesmen and jazz people of that kind of era, his life story is fascinating. However, I'm not sure how much confidence I have in all the information that I picked up from Wikipedia, because there is conflicting information even within the same page as to aspects of his life. I'll try and give you what I think I'm probably reasonably confident about some of this. He was orphaned at 8 and lived in the same home that Louis Armstrong had in a few years previously. He was involved as a spy boy for the Mardi Gras Indians, which I had to look up what that is. I'm not going to go into details because it's not at all relevant to the music, but it's fascinating stuff. He started learning piano and playing in barrel houses, which were kind of informal drinking establishments, sometimes known as juke joints. He moved to Chicago. He was persuaded to become a boxer and won some championships, and that's when he started having the name Champion Jack, which he then brought into his music. At 30, he started recording, but then the war interrupted and he worked as a cook. He, at various times in his life, worked as a cook as well as a musician. The details from 1960 onwards are very confused, especially in terms of the timeline. But it seems that he probably, he moved to Europe. He probably lived for some while in Switzerland, probably in Zurich, and in Germany, and sometime in Hanover, and in an anarchist commune in Copenhagen called Christiania. And Halifax in Yorkshire, which is just a complete different change of pace from all of those other places. In 1992, he died. Hi, my name's Dan. So this was Champion Jack Dupree's first studio album, but I know that he'd been recording before this. However, we're at sort of 50s is kind of the birth of albums anyway. So I've no idea what the history is before this, really. I would describe this as definitely blues. Yes, I should have said, I haven't heard this album before. I've heard of Champion Jack Dupree, but I haven't heard him. I don't think. I might have heard individual tracks by him on compilations. I'm not sure. Right, so back to the description. Definitely blues. There's definitely a piano focus here, as you might imagine, because he was a pianist. So Jack is playing and singing. There's also with him drums, an upright bass, a guitar, electric guitar, and sometimes saxophone. There's occasional electric guitar solos. Mostly this is 12-bar blues, and it just kind of goes to demonstrate how many things you can do with one chord sequence. There's a whole kind of slew of songs from this tradition that basically have the same sequence of chords, which is 12-bar blues. There's a few other chord sequences in here. The one track called Nasty Boogie is made me think of rock and roll, and we're kind of late 50s here, so that's entirely reasonable. That is kind of billed as a boogie, so I wonder if there's a connection between rock and roll and boogie. Don't know. I'm not entirely sure what boogie exactly means. Most of the tracks here were written by Champion Jack. There are a couple of them are traditional. There's one written by somebody else. So the two tracks that are labelled as traditional are Frankie and Johnny and Stacko Lee. I have heard many different versions of Frankie and Johnny, and the story and the song seems to be quite different in some of the songs, but apart from the fact that there are two people called Frankie and Johnny, and somebody gets shot. That seems to be the theme, the kind of central theme. And the other one is, so Stacko Lee, as I've seen that as Stagger Lee, Stag Alley, all sorts of different versions of that name and of the track as well. At least two of these tracks are about drugs. There's one, Can't Kick the Habit, which is about the difficulties of getting off drugs and how drugs can have a financial and social impact on your life. And the other one is Junkers Blues, which seems to paint drugs in a much more positive light and talk about how good the feeling is on drugs. Wikipedia claims that he didn't do drugs despite having quite a few songs about drugs, and that he had a mild usage of alcohol and nothing else. But I don't want to cast doubt on that, but the Wikipedia page is not necessarily reliable, I think, in this case. It's all interesting stuff. Anyway, I mean, the songs. I don't think there was a single song on here that I went, oh, that's a bit of a dull song. They were all kind of, quite interesting stuff going on. There's quite a bit of southern New Orleansy kind of slang going on at times. So there was bits I couldn't quite pick up on. I'm sure that there's double meanings in some of the stuff here. There often was in blues. My favourite track is actually the first track, which is called Strolling, which is kind of a talking song rather than a singing song, and it's just got a really nice feel to it. The recordings, so I don't actually know when it was recorded, but the recordings sound like they're much earlier than the release date was. I'm just trying to trying to track down. So Wikipedia does claim it was recorded in 1958, so that may well be true. It does sound like it could have been recorded a bit earlier than that, just from the quality of the recordings. But it's fine. So yeah, I liked it. I enjoyed it. It's blues. I quite like blues. It's definitely a positive experience for me listening to this. I'd love to know what you think. So, as always, I'm going to invite you to talk to me through the comments box. And that's it from me for now.
Man, slow down. Don't walk so fast. All you got to do is take your time. We'll get there. Stay in the road. I don't blame the people from saying walk in the blues.